Well, good morning, everyone. How are you? It is a real honor to be with you. The room is very full. I can see that there's a standing room, and I love seeing all the young people that are here to be part of the effort. To Professor Destro of Catholic University of America, I want to thank you. You have been with us on this journey consistently. So many of you have. And I want to salute my colleagues, starting with Congressman Jeff Fortenberry. He's not only my colleague, I feel like he's my brother. I really do. And so the work that is being done it's really existential, what we're talking about. We pick up the newspapers, we look at our TV screens, and we see an area of the world that is in turmoil, And I think the mark of it is that there is extraordinary suffering. There is extraordinary suffering. And I'm a first-generation American. I am, my mother Armenian, my father Assyrian. Congressman Vargas talked about the Chaldeans, and there's a very large community in San Diego. My father was baptized in the Chaldean rite, the oldest rite in the Catholic Church. And so the stories of my family and why they fled and what they endured is repeating itself. It's repeating itself all over again in the Middle East. And so the work that we have devoted ourselves to, I think, if I might use the word called to do. Called to do. We really are called to do this. I see scholars, the religious leaders that are here, but I always remember the nun saying that we all have a vocation, we all have a calling, and I think that we have all been called to be part of this effort. Now, the legislation that has been introduced is legislation that calls what is happening in the Middle East a genocide. A genocide, because the oldest of the Christian communities are really being wiped out. And there are so many other religious people of religious backgrounds that are going with them too. I think in the United States of America, the greatest, most powerful country on the face of this earth, that future generations and historians will not judge us well if we don't answer this call. There is so much that needs to be done in terms of humanitarian aid, in terms of our own processes for immigration and political refugees, and all that needs to be done. But I think that unless we call this and name this for what it is, that we will be judged poorly. And so it's with sadness that I say that we have legislation to call this a genocide. We know in the 20th century that the first genocide was the Armenian genocide. And our country has still not stood up, Congress has not stood up to say, acknowledge that it was a genocide. Imagine that, 100 years later, but we're not giving up on that. So I want you to know how grateful I am to you. You have traveled from so many different areas, made an enormous effort to be here. But it's not just this gathering. It's what we do when we go back to our places, and whether it's in academia, whether it's in church life, in parish life, in civic life. This is one of the great values of our country that we export around the world. Freedom of religion. That's why we're engaged in this. That's why we're engaged in this. So I salute my colleagues that are a part of this effort. Congressman Fortenberry and I are the co-chairs of the Religious Minorities Caucus, and I can't tell you what an honor it is to work with him. And my other colleagues as well, but especially Jeff Fortenberry. You know, there's an old saying, the closer you get to someone, the more you see, the more you don't like. The closer I work with him, the more I see, the deeper my regard for him. And I say that to you because I think that it's uplifting. It's uplifting for you all to know against two backdrops. One, of the turmoil and the suffering in the Middle East with so many question marks over it, and the view of the American people of the dysfunction in Congress, that you will be reassured that you have representatives, regardless of our party registration, that are here for the betterment of humanity. Because we know we're all going to be called someday. We know that we're going to be judged. And I was taught that how we're going to be judged is how well have you loved? How well have you cared for your brothers and sisters? How well you have taken care of humanity? So this is our charge. This is what we are engaged in. We've had some progress, and then we take a step back. And then we make a little more progress, and then we kind of go sideways. But no one ever said it was going to be easy. All we have to do is to look at the pictures, read the stories, and know day to day what is occurring. And our calling is energized. So thank you to each one of you. I couldn't mean it more. I see all the faces. I know that there aren't smiles in the audience because it's hard to. But know that you have a team here that is unrelenting, and that we will not give up on this for all of the reasons I stated. So bless all of you for being a part of this. I just couldn't mean it more. And with that, I want to, I don't think he needs any introduction. I don't think he needs any introduction. The magnificent, important, decent, intelligent, and unswerving advocate for this issue, the Honorable Jeff Fortenberry.
Anna, you're way too generous. Let me reflect as well how much I value your friendship, your leadership, your witness to the deepest principles that are at stake here, the dignity and rights of all people, freedom of religion, the basis for civilization itself. Thank you, Anna. Can we give Anna? In the spirit of what Anna was just speaking of, a calling that transcends politics, that is bigger than this building, that is bigger than any political party. The ideals that are at stake, that are necessary to build a better and just world. We are called, as Anna so well put it. Let me read something that I was just looking at moments ago to you, because we have two jobs here. All of us in the room have two responsibilities, and they're very difficult responsibilities. And sometimes they're hard to reconcile, but we have to wrestle with this reconciliation. The first responsibility, obviously, is to attack the unjust structures that are leading to a dying, broken, wounded people who are hanging on for life. And the second responsibility is this. Jesus said to his disciples, "To you who hear I say, love your enemies." Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. To the person who strikes you on one cheek, offer the other as well. And from the person who takes your cloak, do not withhold even your tunic. Give to everyone who asks of you. And from the one who takes what is yours, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. For if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do the same. Give, and gifts will be given to you. A good measure, packed together, shaken down, and overflowing will be poured into your lap. For the measure with which you measure will, in return, be measured out to you. One of my little girls came home from school one day. I have 5 daughters. And the baby is now 9. This is a couple years ago. She must have been 6 or 7 years old. And something was wrong. She was upset, and I finally was able to pull it out of her. Someone slapped her at school across the cheek. And as any good parent would, those of you who have children, you know that it's necessary for the young vessels to be formed. That no one should allow themselves to be victimized by bullying or hatred, especially when you're young, or else it turns inward, and you lose self-confidence. So the job of the parent is to build up the child. And I said, sweetie, if someone does that to you, you have every right to turn around and defend yourself. You go right back into their face. She said, Dad, we're Christians. We should turn the other cheek. Out of the mouths of babes. So how do we reconcile these two tasks that we have? To attack the unjust structures that are leading to the wholesale slaughter of innocent people, and at the same time be guided by the ultimate principle, the transcendent ideal of love. That's the task before us. One of the things that Anna and I are trying to do is lead a caucus, and I can tell you there's growing momentum, because here people want to do something. We don't exactly have a clear pathway because there is no clear pathway, but everyone wants to do something. And beginning with a resolution that calls this for what it is, a genocide, a wholesale slaughter of people, a grave injustice, will hopefully elevate the consciousness of the entire world as to what's happening and attack the scandal of indifference, the scandal of silence, as Pope Francis has said. It also has implications for those who are in a position who must migrate. But it does not give up on the idea that Christianity, as well as other faith traditions, have every right to their ancient homeland as anyone else. And that's the job here. The third component, we will continue to work through the difficult strategizing in terms of security and economics, and those are complicated issues, but that's going on as well. I just want to leave you with this understanding what we're trying to do to assist you. Now, I understand that many of you are from various states and you're going back to tell your people where you're from. This is exactly what we need. A new political movement that is grounded in an essential truth, that all persons have inherent dignity and right. If one is suffering, all must suffer together. And to stop the slaughter, to stop the persecution of the innocents, will take a new national movement. Those of you who are part of the diaspora community, Anna is first generation, have a particular role as well by being empowered to participate in an American way, in pressuring and in giving incentive and encouragement to those who represent you in Congress, so that this issue does stay in the forefront. Because if it doesn't, it just takes its place alongside everything else that competes for the time. And yet this is about the essentials for civilization itself. Just order and just structures. That's what we have to do. The draft form of this resolution, I can report to you all, was given to the Holy Father, Pope Francis, about a week and a half ago, who committed himself personally to reading it. So again, hopefully in some small way, with Anna's leadership, and I just received a text from another member of Congress who said, Congressman, put me on the resolution. So this word is spreading very quickly. Hopefully with good leadership here, we can partner with you, not partner with you, be brothers and sisters with you in this effort that is essential not only to save Christianity in the Middle East, but is essential to the principles of civilized order and behavior itself. It's the international community's responsibility to try to act and act now. So God bless you all. Thank you all so much for inviting me today. We'll keep working on it.